So the series is a core research strand at Calvert 22. For those of you who haven't been and don't know Calvert 22, it's a non-for-profit foundation based in Shoreditch, East London, and it focuses on the former East. So, and what we try and do is not just bring work to the UK, but also really open up debates wherever possible, discussions, and really try to engage with people on a deeper level than just showing the work. And the core focus of the series is really looking at how at difficult times, socially, politically, economically difficult times, that all the different countries in the region share over the past, say, the second half of the 20th century, what happens to artistic practice on the ground.
So, but 1989, nevertheless, I think increasingly feels to be a significant, an incredibly significant moment, not only for the changes in the former socialist part of Europe, but also for the fact that this was the Tiananmen Square riots. It was also the invention of the internet. It's the first time somebody typed www into a computer and actually didn't get a spelling mistake, but got something back. And he wrote in his introduction that he had, in order to put the exhibition together, he had traversed the whole world. And he had gone as far west as Los Angeles, as far north as Stockholm, as far south as Naples, and as far east as Vienna. And that was the world in which a documenta, an international art exhibition, was constructed at that time. And it's not that Rudy was a stupid person, it's not even that Rudy was somebody with a political agenda to exclude. It was simply that he understood that as a fact, that that was the art world. That contemporary art, or modern art, he would have called it, he was still a modernist, is still a modernist, is something that related to that part of the world. And elsewhere, other things could happen, art could be produced, but essentially it wasn't part of a tradition in which documenta could recognize. I think a lot of NSK works helps us all, in a sense, not only to understand Yugoslavia and Slovenia, but understand our own basic ideological construction, and to accept it or reject it. But to understand it is a major point.
Is our capacity in communicating with the West. And funny enough, we found out that we got a problem. That the set of questions which were preferred to be discussed in the West at that moment were somehow not the equal as we had as our questions. What was our joke that we enjoyed to somehow to use it in New York, where we used to live in the late 80s for a few years? Where was the limit of tolerance of our colleagues, which were, of course, very tolerant? The limit was exactly when we started to tease them that New York is not going to be the center of art forever. That in fact is going to lose that position.
Can you perhaps suggest to us other examples of other artists from that region who might be doing similar things? Because it is quite a strong criticism that has been made by a number of artists engaged not in archival practice but in canonicity. I think is actually the question that's at stake for a lot of people here. And whether how Irwin has engaged with some of these other attempts at challenging even the notion of a reconstruction of canonicity through those kinds of...
So let me begin with a story. The story concerns some of the people sitting actually over here in the first row, and that was of course the Irwin group. So in June of 1986, a group of young Slovenian artists who called themselves Irwin were busy installing a peculiar exhibition in a private house in the Cannareggia district of Venice. There were two fasces, an ancient Roman symbol of strength and unity, which subsequently became the origin for the term fascism. The first works were produced in April and May of 1985 and later exhibited in a private atelier of Matthias Vipotnik, an established Ljubljana designer, with only invited visitors being able to see the show.
History is not given, please help to construct it. This seductive staccato couplet, which has come to be something of a slogan for the project that is East Art Map, contains a profoundly dialectical characterization of historical self-understanding. East Art Map is a research project, a book, a web-based platform, a discursive formation that attempts to survey the landscape of artistic production in the territories of the former Eastern Bloc since 1945.
Through their double engagement with a whole across 2 decades, Irwin would negotiate their own role as collective incentivized producers of difference within established systems that were themselves in a state of flux. In art context, like art criticism, museum curators, art historians dealing with contemporary art, in the sense as it was developed in the West, did not exist in the East. And that created completely different conditions for functioning of art.
In what follows, I'd like to address two main issues. How does the structure of East Art Map relate to its ability to answer the questions it articulates? And what other structures and avenues might now be best suited to building on this project of mapping East European art?
Being confronted to so-called general art history, you are confronted with exactly the opposite, the totality, and this is in question here. This is at stake in this play game.
The non-official art was very much tied to the politics of the national identity. So if you take high socialist modernism, it was somewhat very international across Eastern Europe. Let's take sort of public monuments, for example, throughout the Eastern Europe. There are incredible connections between those.
And I suppose what I'm puzzled or wondering, I mean, this sort of, you know, Kubla Khan-like ambition that you have to build the whole of the world completely networked. But well, that's how it came across anyway. Yeah, within art history to make that kind of thing. You see, I don't think that the West is totalized in that sense. I think.
So what often is more important is the fact that all kinds of different interactions work across Eastern European, but they're very personalized. You have to speak to these people. It's oral histories, right?
And this would then be a model for thinking about the problem of national identity and relating to one's neighbors and these different families and the East-West problem and so on, but that's more complicated and I haven't done that yet. But I mean, I don't think mapping is only about space, that's all.